Thank you all very much for coming. I don't want to take up too much time because we want to have our midshipmen speak about their experiences. What we're going to do is we divided the program today into a discussion, first a bit more specific about activities at Bodai, which is the National Defense Academy of Japan. We'll see the name up in a second. And we'll have the midshipmen speak about their experiences. And then they'll talk about their cultural experiences in Japan, all the fun nitty-gritty things. And can you share everything?
Everything.
Everything. Outstanding midshipmen. We'll have them seat in the middle of the room. Thank you very much. And I'm going to act as a provocateur, lead the discussion. What I'm going to do first is could you tell us a little bit about the process of going abroad? What steps did you need to take to set up your experience before you left?
Okay, so, oh, by the way, hi, my name is Joe Choi. Yeah, so the process in getting this whole thing started is, it all starts with, first of all, I'm sure, a lot of you guys are in the Japanese class. If not, that's fine, but that's how it all started. They were told, okay, there's going to be an exchange, the fall semester. So first thing that you do is, okay, you got to make sure that they're going to send out, what are the qualifications you need. You need a certain CUPER, or you need, a certain conduct grade, aptitude grade, this, that. And next thing you need is to get your company officers letter of recommendation. You need a letter of recommendation from one of your teachers or Japanese teachers. And from there, you put your package in, with a little essay of why you want to go. And then from there, you're interviewed by Mr. Disher and one of the Japanese languages instructors. And from there, that's how they make the selection process. And that's kind of like the beginning steps of it. Did I miss anything?
No.
Well, once you're selected to go, I guess it's abroad anywhere, you have to set up all your courses, make sure everything's going to work out with credit transfer and everything. So that's kind of an in-depth process. You got to figure out what courses you want to take, be in contact with the school you're going to, and talk to the departments at the academy, make sure everything's going to set up and transfer. So that was probably the most in-depth part of the whole process, I think.
We'll ask you to talk a little bit about your experiences in the classroom at the academy, the institute over there. What did you know about the school before you went?
Well, there was one thing that I knew. It was actually just a little funny little fact. Probably one thing I knew about going to school was in the mornings when you wake up, everyone wakes up together and there's formation outside. And then guys have to take off their shirts and they carry like a little towel with them. I think it goes back from tradition. Don't know exactly what it comes from.
Samurai tradition.
Yeah, samurai tradition or something like that. But so everyone runs outside in formation. Girls are obviously wearing shirts, and basically you just have to start scrubbing your body. And while you're out there to warm your body up, and that's and the freshmen are like yelling stuff. It sounds like a little chant. And that's how they do formation. And then once that's over, everyone just runs back in.
It's honestly the best cup of coffee you can have in the morning.
Yeah,
you don't want to go
definitely.
back to sleep.
Especially during winter time when the wind's just
it wakes you up.
It's a biting cold.
It's brisk. What Joe's forgetting is, in the morning, it was normally 6:30 in the morning. The bell would go off, and you have to rip your rack, fold your blankets, put it just so, and get outside with your little hand towel to do the scrubbing that he mentioned, and all that within 5 minutes.
So it's a little plebe summer-esque.
Yeah, they're pretty quick about it.
Warrior building.
So you knew some things about sort of daily life, but did you know much about the institution before you went, or a little bit?
Go ahead.
Not too much about the institution itself. I mean, you know the basics, like when it was founded, kind of what the overview of the school looks like. But I think with any place, you don't really learn about you can't really learn about the inner workings unless you're there. I mean, you can read as many facts as you want, but it doesn't mean anything to you unless you're, living it. So.
We've got some facts about the academy up on the board. No, this is not, there's no test involved. This is just to let you know about the institution. It's located in Yokosuka, which we know is a major American naval presence in Japan. Founded in August of 1952, following what? 7 years of post-war military occupation by the United States and Japan. This is after the post-World War II American occupation. The name of this institution will change in '54. It starts off as the National Safety Academy, but is now the National Defense Academy of Japan. And you see the mission is to train service personnel for Japan's self-defense forces. Why a self-defense force? What is the self-defense force? What is the self-defense force?
It's not a military. It's basically, I think it lacks the capability of offensive military operations. It's purely for defense. I remember in their welcome center they talked about the reason they founded the academy as a tri-service academy and the type of school it is because of lessons they learned from World War II about lack of cooperation between services and lack of technical knowledge among officer corps was what they said in their welcome center. So.
It's also a stipulation in their Constitution, I believe Article 8, sir, is that correct? With it's got the 1% cap on their Article 9. Excuse me. Sorry. Is Article 9 1% cap of 1% of their GDP cap on defense spending. So that's huge because Japan is such a economically sound country, but the Article 9 also stipulates that they cannot have an offensive force. It has to be defensive.
When you were in Japan, did you notice or did you say anything about prevailing Japanese mindsets about a military force, the self-defense forces? Did you hear much about this?
I don't know. I think you'll find in anywhere you go, you'll find the full spectrum of people. You know, there's people who like the way things are with the self-defense force, and then there's people in the middle, and there's people who want a military. I mean, they say, like, I talked to a guy who gave the example if an American ship and a Japanese ship are out on the ocean together and the Japanese ship is attacked, the American ship can, okay, go help the Japanese ship, but I guess under the law, if the American ship is attacked, the Japanese ship cannot aid the American ship, and they say, people think that's ridiculous sometimes. But like I said, you'll find the full spectrum of views, from extreme nationalists to people, the exact opposite. But
regardless of this diversity of opinion, the state still has a responsibility or feels a responsibility to train its military leaders,
right.
The self-defense forces. And with the organization of BODAI, as it's known in Japan, the National Defense Academy, it has 6 schools that have an undergraduate curriculum. You see the divisions here. But then there's also a graduate school of security studies. You were all involved with the undergraduate programs. And do you notice anything different or anything particular about the curriculum there? You were taking a certain set of courses, but how are they training the officers of the service personnel at BODAI?
Each class had its own distinct set of training. The freshmen, it was constant training. I mean, they were cleaning 3 times a day for 40 minutes. I mean, they were on hands and knees with a washcloth wiping the floors. And it was just constantly being kept in check. It was unbelievable. And then we participated in training with the juniors, the Navy side. And so for the almost the final week that we were there, we got to go to Iwo Jima. We spent 2 days there. We did a day out in the cutter, which is
I think crew, except huge boats.
Big boat, two hands on the
on the oar.
Yes, that's the word. And we spent a day in the sailboat. We spent a day in like just a ship simulator, and then a day on navigation. So all the juniors went to Iwo Jima, but obviously the concentration varied by branch. They had all 3 Air Force, Navy, and Army there, and each of them had their own distinct training.
Right, so the juniors were separated also doing that, because that's a junior trip, and then the seniors also. I'm not too sure exactly what the seniors did, because we weren't part of their training group since we were with the juniors, but they did their own thing also with, also the Navy, the Army, and then the Air Force side.
This is all in lieu of class, by the way. This is like during a regular week.
Yeah, so like classes were no classes, and that whole week was just straight training.
And then the freshmen they took a week and went to Mount Fuji, and they had training there.
When you were in Yokosuka, which also has this American naval presence, let's get a map here of the campus of the National Defense Academy. Did you interact with the American forces in Yokosuka while you were there? Did you have the opportunity?
Oh yeah, especially that first week getting there. we were there the entire week, and then from time to time during the academic year, we'd always go, like every once in a while go back, and it's so close anyway. By car, it's about 15 minutes. By train, maybe 20 minutes. So every so often we'd come back, I guess get a little taste of America.
And also, if you notice on the first slide there, that's a picture from a banquet we went to called the JAN2009 banquet, Japan America Navy Friendship Association. It was a banquet, honoring the ties between Japan and America's Navy. So, there's officers from both Japanese and American sides there. They handed out awards to individual sailors, officers, and it was basically time to get together and, honor the friendship between the two countries.
That was really the only joint kind of operation we saw, though.
So you mainly staged your activities. We'll go back to the campus. Any comments about the campus here at Bodai?
Beautiful.
Beautiful campus.
Beautiful view. It's
King's View.
Yeah, it's high in the hills, so you get a like bird's eye view of Tokyo. That's Tokyo Bay right behind there, and it's also not far from interesting historical point where Matthew Perry landed the first time in the 1850s. So there's a lot of history around there, and the campus is very hilly.
Very hilly.
If we turn our attention to the school, and we have a couple of pictures taken from your time at Bodai. I wonder if you could say something first, though, about the cadets there, your colleagues there, the Japanese students that you studied with. Anything you can say about their experiences, or why they're there, or what they think their contribution will be in their military?
Being in the military in Japan, it was hard for us to relate because here in the States, people appreciate the uniform, people respect it, and if you show your military ID card, sometimes you get 10% off, or you get you get discounted plane tickets or something. And in Japan, they are very proud of what they're doing, very proud to be in the military, but it's essentially another job to the Japanese. It's kind of like, oh, you're in the military. Oh, I own a business. It's nothing incredibly out of the ordinary. And then another difference is if these graduates, once they join the military, that's it. That's their career. It's not five and dive or eight years later. This is a great tour. I think I'm going to get out. It's a lifetime commitment for them.
Ms. Murphy, can you make any comments about the female participants there?
It was different from the guys by far. In Japanese society, women tend to be not subservient by any means, but they tend to take a more timid role with the men, and I noticed a lot of that still at the academy. The women held themselves to a higher standard. I would say women at the academy here do as well, just because they're still very much a minority. I think there was only 5% there of the 1,600 students. So whereas sometimes the guys could get away with fudging the rules, my roommates, all 8 of them, were very, very strict about the rules. And whenever they broke the rules, it wasn't, oh, can you cover for me? Can you, oh, I'm cool because I broke the rules. It was I'm very ashamed of myself for breaking the rules. I dishonored myself. I dishonored my room. I'm very sorry. Let me make up for it. And the men were like that as well, but it was less. Some of the smaller rules that we as midshipmen tend to think, oh, we're not supposed to sleep during the day. I'm going to sleep during the day anyway. My roommates never, even something as simple as that, never did that. So it was very interesting contrast.
You were involved with the basketball team.
Yes, sir.
There, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a photo here. What was that experience like?
That was very interesting. I grew up in Japan, so I'm used to playing with girls a lot shorter and a lot smaller than me. But here in the States, I was a point guard. I played in high school as a point guard, and I got there, and they wouldn't let me play anything but center. The girl on the left of John, she was the tallest girl on the team, and I topped her by a couple inches. So and so trying to train the center, sometimes I'd push them around, try and get them to work just a little bit harder, get used to being pushed, and they would fall over. Okay, guys, we'll back off a little bit. But their dedication to the sport was incredible. They would spend weekends, they'd go out and support the guys' teams, or they'd spend weekends going and watching Japan intercollegiate leagues. Like, they were very, very dedicated to the club, and always sending emails. Like, if they were going to be 5 minutes late to practice, I'd get an email on my phone, hey, I have class that's going to run late today, I'm going to be 5 minutes late to practice. Okay, just come 5 minutes late. So,
well, just to add on to that, in Japan, there's no, you know how over here we have varsity sports? That concept doesn't exist over in Japan. Mm-hmm. So the club sport that you do is the varsity sport. So that's why it's so intense like that, you know. People show up, you know, people don't want to come late because it's just like the varsity sport. You know, you come, you compete with other colleges. And I think that's where, you know, that sense of, you know, oh, I got to get to practice, oh, I have to come. On
that same note as what Kat was talking about, like the warrior spirit they have is just like, it's amazing. Like, I mean, in everything they do, they go like 110%. It's not like, you know, if you have a job to do, you do it, and you do it with all your effort. I mean, you know, whether you're, you know, sweeping up the basketball court after the game, or, you know, or you're the star center, or, you know, even like you're picking up garbage downtown. I mean, everybody does their job like it's, you know, like it's their last day to
and
live.
No one complains.
Yeah, and nobody complains.
No one complains.
That's different with the academy.
No.
Now, we have an interesting photograph on the other side up here, but before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about going to school at the academy. What was it like as students from the United States? What was the class structure like? And any particular experiences that you think are helpful with this, just the technical side of going abroad for a semester, planning classes, planning your courses? What can you say about school life at the academy?
Well, I would say the school life portion is definitely very different from what we're used to here. Classes typically, I mean, it's a lot longer the way they have it set up over there compared to our 50-minute classes. They have an hour and a half, and it's quite the opposite of how, you know, over here it'll be really a lot of exchanging. You know, professors will ask a question, and then, you know, students tend to reply, or students will actively engage and ask questions. Over there, I think it's a lot more structured, where it's a lot of the professor lectures, you know, for the hour and a half, and students will be there, you know, taking notes, and not too much exchanges going on. I think that's probably one of the biggest differences that I notice, you know, when comparing the two different, our school and their school. Mm-hmm. So.
What sort of classes did you take?
We took the classes that we shared together was, we had strategy. John and Kat both had leadership together, and we had a culture class.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then we all took classes, you know, individual classes.
Right, our own individual classes pertaining to our major.
And language instruction?
Oh, so a little bit about that. So if you didn't know, the semester system is different in Japan. So they go from, I believe, from March till September, and then October till February. That's how their structure set up. So their spring semester is actually considered their first semester, and then their fall semester is considered their second semester. So we got there around late August, so we're in the middle of their semester. So the first month that we're there, it was around, you know, the time where they're getting ready for finals, getting ready to take final exams. So what they did for us is they put us in an intensive, like 6-hour a day, you know, Japanese course. So we're just, you know, while everyone's doing their thing with finals, we're doing our thing, you know, with just learning Japanese. It was just, you know, one teacher with us three. One classroom with us three.
90 degrees.
90 with the other,
warm.
no air conditioner, no, but with the other Air Force students who were there.
And studying Japanese in Japan, any comments about that, different methods?
Always have homework help. Always have homework help.
Talk about in class, John.
It was Japanese in Japanese. We were using Japanese elementary students' textbooks. So, you know, our textbooks are very nice and cushy, and they say, konnichiwa, and then next to it says hello. Well, we didn't have that in our textbook, so we're trying to figure out in Japanese with our Japanese professor, so what exactly are we saying here? And
and keep in mind, she didn't speak much English.
So it got a little bit frustrating at times, but that was some of the best Japanese instruction I think the three of us have had.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was hard, but, you know, I guess language instruction is not supposed to be easy, I guess.
Of course, one of the benefits of going abroad is that you go out of the classroom and use language. Do you find that interacting with your colleagues at the academy really helps a certain language skill set that you have?
Well, I would say most definitely, rather than, I would say, okay, here's how I like to compare it to. You know, I'm sure you guys are all familiar. If you guys read, like, you know, how to learn English textbooks, you know, it's very structured, and, you know, most people don't speak that way, right? Am I right? So it was the exact same when we got there. You know, we have the foundation, we have the basics, but when it came to listening and speaking, I mean, the spoken language is completely different. So I think, you know, just being there, being immersed in the culture, you learn, you know, oh, okay, so this is how people speak, you know. They don't speak, you know, like, is this a book? No, that is a pen. You know, they don't speak that way.
That was an example from an actual book that everyone used.
Yeah. So I think, if anything, it's just the whole, more so than the academic side, it's more so actually like learning the natural speaking and listening. And
especially the listening. My conversation is a lot worse than my listening right now, just because I'm so used to being able to discern words now, that before, if I'd heard it, it's one more time, please, slow, word by word, you know, and it's and you can't get that in the classroom. Your professor's not going to talk to you that way, and, you know, obviously reading a book, you're not going to be able to have the experience of listening.
What was the structure set up for doing homework or academic work? Would you say that there was more time or less time than here, or were you doing more work that you?
The focus was definitely not on academics. Here, we're very focused on, you're going to earn your degree, you're going to be sat, you know, you're going to get good grades. And there, it was much more military training, and grades were secondary.
If you fail, you fail.
Yeah, if you fail, you fail.
If you fail, you fail, and you get kicked out.
What?
I mean, they had like they had.
Yeah.
I mean, they had their study hour.
8 till.
It was 8. You know, I actually like it a lot more because it was, you know, you study for an hour, and then, you know, everybody takes a 10-minute break where, you know, you walk around and don't have to worry about it's study hour for, you know, 10-15 minutes, and then you go back for another hour and then do the same thing, and then was it one more hour?
Right. Well, yeah. Like, just to be a little bit more specific on that, you know, compared, you know, over there they take study hour very, very seriously. Like, it's really strict, as in from 8 till 9 is study hour. You don't do anything else except study. And then from 9 to 9:10 is your break. And then from there to typically to about 10:30 is where you get allowed to study unless you get permission. So yeah, you could get permission to study up until 12, but after that it's lights out. You go to bed and you can't. You can't be studying.
If you saw in the previous picture with me and the guy, that one, that's where that's the room where the desks and the computers were. And each room had that room, and then next door was the bedroom where your personal belongings and your bed was.
8 people
and
in each room.
8, or there were 9 in mine. But the thing was, like Joe said, during study hour, you're studying. I tried to go into the bedroom one time just to grab something. They came in, they're like, can't have the lights on in here. They're like, you got to get out. You have to be in the computer room. You have to be studying. And if you're not at your computer studying, you're with someone else. You know, group work. It's
very strict.
What other activities did you take part in at the academy?
Well, Kat took part in basketball, and John and I, we took part in various other club sports. So other than the academic side, I'd say club sports was probably I would say, the only thing as far as school life pertained to that we participated in.
Did you find there were a lot of camaraderie building activities?
Oh
yeah.
Oh, definitely.
You know, they had this thing. It's called the Botaoshi, which is probably the. You know,
it's awesome.
We have Spirit here at the Naval Academy. It's based around companies, whereas over there it's your battalion. Your battalion is like your home, and like that's where the Spirit's based on. And this Botaoshi competition. I don't know. Do we have a picture up there? Yeah, this is
one right here.
This is before the Botaoshi. It's basically.
It's like war.
It's like a war. There's a
joke.
giant pole standing up, and there's a battalion that's trying to prevent the pole from being pushed 30 degrees either in any direction.
Right.
And there's another battalion trying to make it go in that direction, and it's just like a fight to keep this pole standing straight for 2 minutes. You know, people get like legitimately hurt during it. Like they go to the hospital.
Yeah, shirts ripped. I mean, they're coming out. They look like they walked through a war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the single best event, and I wish our academy had it, but you know.
I mean, if you like these guys, like before this, they practice every day for a month. No, 3 times a day.
3 times a day, like prior to the month of this. I mean, they take this seriously. This is like the ultimate, you know.
This is your honor.
If you want to win the ultimate like Superman award, this is it. You know, this is like the Macho Man award right here.
And there was another competition that Joe actually got to participate in earlier on. It was the swim competition. I got to be part of the cheering section for my battalion, and we used a lot of the baseball cheers that we converted for 4th Battalion. And that was just everyone gets in swimming events. And this one actually involved the battalion officers, which is pretty cool. I think it was my battalion. The guy had written across his back, "I heart 4BN." It was a good show of spirit.
English.
Yeah, in English.
Other types of structure at the academy. What was your daily routine like?
Very set. It was very regimented.
Like we said, wake up at 6:30. We had formation, and then after formation, you kind of had your time before you go to breakfast. You go back to your room, put your shirt back on for the guys. Yeah, that looks like lunch. But and then you kind of head down to breakfast, and after breakfast, you had all this time until about 8:10 was usually formation. Unless your battalion was chosen, you have to go observe colors. You just stand outside formation. After that formation, everybody marches to class together. So you line up in your own class sections, and then you march off to various points on the campus. No, there's after lunch formation, but there's no noon meal formation.
You
go to lunch at 12.
Yeah, you better be seated by 12.
Yeah.
It's basically the formation itself.
After lunch, it's the same thing, another class formation. You go to class. After class is, intramurals, club sports, whatever. And then after that, it's evening formation, dinner, then formation, and then there's a little bit of time to, get stuff out of the way, run errands, do chores, whatever. The plebes are cleaning. They are Melwood. There is no Melwood.
And they're King Hall pit crew.
Yeah, the King Hall pit crew, Melwood, and regular plebes too. And then it's study hour until bed. So I mean, day is very structured. But
right. So the TAPS is actually done at evening meal formation. Where they get accountability, and that's where actually TAPS occurs.
We're telling you guys all these things about how structured and strict it is, but we don't want you to feel like it's not like going through plebe summer.
Right, definitely not.
We had a blast. Like it doesn't suck at all. I mean, to put it plainly, it's a lot of fun.
It is probably the single best experience, the opportunity that I've received from being here.
Yeah, it's definitely people say, oh man, it wasn't like plebe summer. Are you like a plebe again? And like no, I mean, you're learning about another culture. You have all your friends there, and every day is a new experience. I honestly woke up every day, looked out my awesome view onto Tokyo Bay.
I'm here.
I said, yeah, I can't believe they're letting me do this for 4 months. So I mean, don't we're not trying to make it look negative to you guys.
Right, definitely not.
Is it a public campus, meaning that the public can come on and photograph you?
No.
It's not a tourist spot like the academy. They don't have flowers replaced every week. It's the view of the main gate is beautiful, and then the rest of the campus is dedicated to training because the only people that get on base are the ones that have a purpose for being there. They teach or.
I think if people wanted to get on, they could, but I don't know. People don't seem to do that at all. It wasn't. No tour guides.
Well, what is this? This is another photo.
I did that. There was another event that was school-wide, and each battalion, I guess, had their own set of tents that they set up, food tents with like yakisoba and various Japanese cultural dishes, and then my battalion seemed to be really big on performing. So the guy with the flowers on organized this whole fashion show, hip-hop dance. That's the hip-hop part. And the fashion show, I mean, we had Gothic and Metro. It was a lot of fun to do. And then each class in my battalion, the freshmen, sophomores, etc., had this group called TSO.
Oh, that's really
And it was about 5 guys from each class, and they had this little comedy act that was it was hilarious, but it was also like, are they really doing that?
And just to keep in mind, this actually is when they opened up campus to the public because this is like an international festival that they have over the weekend. So this is one of the few times where, you know, you just see massive amounts of people just coming in.
It's like parents' weekend for all classes,
Right.
all parents, family, friends.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And they
People
open
from
up the
America.
dorms
Right,
as well.
they open up the dorms so families can come and visit, all that jazz.
And a lot of like guys from the American base, you know, like the senior admirals and things like that. They
Right.
come along to see.
Observe the parade and the event that they were talking about, the boat house shoot. That was the same time.
Right, that's on the last day of this event.
It's a culminating.
Right, it's like the finale.
One of the benefits is you were able, as part of your instruction there, is to get away from the campus. And you mentioned the longer that you went out to Iwo Jima. And we have some photos about that. Could you say something about the experience or how this came to be?
Your photo.
Sure, yeah.
Some shots, Iwo Jima.
It was just, you know, just the fact that it was such a special experience. I mean, I don't think like it's like almost impossible to get there as an American, and even as like an American military. I mean, it's really only Japanese military that gets to go there. So I mean, to me it seemed like a natural museum of like history basically. There's all these. You walk around the island and there's rusted gun emplacements sitting around, and you're walking through these old bunkers and caves and you feel like you're like reliving history,
It's like it's like so surreal. You're
Yeah.
just, wow.
And yeah, I mean, and it's, it makes you think a lot about how far we've come since, our relationship with Japan, how far it's come since World War II and, things that happened back then. But yeah, it was an experience to be treasured. It was a lot of walking for 2 days. We walked all over the
And
island.
it's really hot.
Very
Yeah.
hot.
Very hot.
The caves were unventilated, and I know it's nicely lit for the picture, but they were pitch black. You had to bring your own your own flashlight, and it was
Heated
an
by
incredible
metal.
experience. I mean, just being there in the caves, you understand what the Japanese on the island went through, and looking at the beaches and walking. You can't really see it there, but the underbrush and everything, and pictures of the gun placements. I mean, just seeing what the Americans and the Japanese went through, it was unbelievable. It really brought everything to life.
And those caves are cramped. If you see the guy in front of me, I remember he was a short guy, and he's bending over, and I'm taking the picture. I think shortly thereafter is when I hit my head and dropped the camera.
Actually,
So
John was pretty much on his hands and knees the entire
the whole
time.
time.
He was crawling through.
it was definitely claustrophobia definitely
Yeah.
set in after a while.
And there are memorials on the island too, is that right?
There are.
So, the next picture, actually.
Sure, here.
Yeah.
This is This is actually where those guys are standing. Right behind there is actually where the
Flag.
famous flag was raised. And you see the close-up here. I guess any American military personnel that comes up there since I guess the island was opened up, they leave their dog tags there, which I mean,
Sign of respect.
yeah, I guess it's a sign of respect, and it's just it's a real solemn occasion when you're up there. Nobody's really talking, but looking out, you can see this perfect view of the whole island, and it makes you feel like you're around ghosts. There's ghosts around you. You have a real sense of history when you're looking at that and where you come from. I mean, especially like from an American perspective, it gives you a sense of your heritage, like your military heritage of who came before you and what you're fighting for. So, I mean, it gives you a good perspective.
It was also interesting because we had Japanese instructors taking us around the island, so we saw some of the Japanese perspective. For example, at each Japanese memorial site, we always poured out water. And I finally asked why, and they said because the Japanese men on the island, those that lasted, were dying of thirst. They didn't have any water. So as a sign of respect, you always go and you give them some of your own water to soothe the spirits that are still there.
I think this is Iwo Jima, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there much build up on the island? I mean, structures and houses? Or
There's an airfield and a couple
Military.
Spartan-like houses. Very bare. We slept inside of a gymnasium on the floor.
Brought our own water. They don't really have running water on the island.
No shower.
No.
No shower. And besides the airfield and those things, it's like the island is empty. There's some monuments and old guns lying around.
Probably a total of like 10 buildings on the island.
Yeah.
If that.
Well, certainly one of the benefits of going on study abroad is the opportunity to go to all these sites that we read about, or sites you don't know about but get to experience. I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about your cultural experiences, cross-cultural experience in Japan, but certainly leave time for some questions you might have about either their experiences or perhaps the programs, ITO programs in general. Tell us about interacting with Japanese culture and Japanese societies. What were some of the high points?
The people on the side, that was my host family, and they were incredible. This festival was the first weekend I spent with them, and it was a 3-day weekend that we actually had. It's a celebration of the Elderly Day, and what I did with them, I don't know if you can see it now. There's a portable shrine. It's kind of on the back left part of the picture, and a bunch of people in the neighborhood got together, and we just carried that thing on our shoulders and bounced it around, and everyone got all dressed up. They got me that happy coat, and we took it through the neighborhood, and then everyone got together for meal, and then we took it down down the main road. All the neighborhoods took it down the main road, and there's just this whole line of lights. It was ridiculous, and we all ended up at the neighborhood shrine, or the community shrine, and also this weekend, they took me to a flower arranging class. It's called Ikebana. So I got to do my own flower arranging. They arranged for me to wear a kimono at one point. I got to wear my kimono. I'd never done that before. There's so many pieces to it. It's unbelievable.
Do you want to wear one every day?
No. It took 40 minutes to get that thing on. It was so many parts. It was just incredible. And so at this same festival here, I got to learn how to actually do a Japanese tea ceremony. I've participated in many, especially since I grew up there, but never actually learned how to do it before. And something else, Japanese calligraphy, I got to do some of that too. So they were just phenomenal in getting me involved with the culture, getting to do cultural things.
And your family was in Yokosuka?
Yes.
And you all had host family experiences too?
Yes, sir. I mean, Joe and I usually did things together. So if his host family did something, I would usually be with him. And I'd say, yeah, the host family, because they were older. They were definitely the cultural emissaries, I think, for Japan. Because they had a little, a little older, wiser, knew more about it. I mean, for example, we one weekend we went. I guess would you call Hakone a cultural experience?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we went to mountains near in the area, Hakone Mountains, and we spent a weekend in onsen, which is like a hot spring resort, and then where do we have
the sand bath?
Oh yeah, want to talk about that?
Yeah. So part of the cultural experience is my host dad really wanted me to show us around and just basically show us, a lot of things that were exclusive to Japan, like what they had to offer. And so one of the things was, it was the sand bath. It's pretty much like, you could just imagine, it's just outside, and then there's a bunch of warm sand just on the floor. And basically, the workers just tell you, oh, lie down right here. And then they basically just start shoveling, not even shoveling, they just start packing sand all around you, and you're just kind of lying there like this, I mean, John and our caps were burning because it was super hot.
Hot sand.
Right, heated sand. And so, yeah, I mean, on top of that, they were just showing us a lot of different things. We went up to, what was it for the black eggs?
The kuro tamago.
Yeah, the kuro tamago. They took us here and there, showed us, a museum of Hakone checkpoint. And basically, they basically just showed us all over, we went to one of the castles that were in the area, the checkpoints, they showed us a little bit of, the black eggs. It's just basically, they just
take us to traditional meals and things
right,
like that.
Right.
You did the mochitsuke.
Right, and I did what's called the mochitsuke. It was towards the end of my trip, or my stay in Japan, and it really kind of showed me, the value that they hold with the whole idea of family, because what they did was the community would get together on this one day, and basically, just they get all together, everyone's all excited to be there, and basically people just start cooking up rice, put it into this old little pot, and basically, the guys come and take turns to start hammering away at it, turning into rice cakes, and everyone's just happy, having a great time. So that was definitely one of the, I guess, the values of the cultural experience that I learned, that the whole idea of family.
But more than just different Japanese activities, I think it was a lot of interacting with the people that gave us some of the biggest shocks, I think, and created some of the funnier experiences. I remember one time I was eating lunch and I asked someone to pass the tea down because, you know, here, you're my plebe king. If I was sitting next to you and I said, King, go ahead and pour me some more juice, you'd be like, what, are your arms broken? You know? I mean, I would have said that to my firstie. And so it was a shock when I asked them to pass down the tea, and my senior roommate immediately started scolding my plebe roommate, the freshman, and she turns to me and she said, she's gotta keep an eye on your glass. She has to refill your tea when it's empty. You know, that's not up to you. So that, again, freshmen, they're training you,
right.
Always training.
That comes along with the whole like senpai kohai culture, you know, like senpai being like those, you know, those who are older than you, and kohai being those who are younger than you. Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, like it's very strict there in Japan, you know. For instance, you know how we said there's 8 to a room, right? Well, there's 2 seniors, 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, and 2 freshmen, and the freshmen will always speak politely up, sophomores speak politely up, juniors speak politely up. So it's a very, in that sense, it's very strict, you know. It's like the whole idea of respecting those who are older than you.
So learning your honorifics was really important.
Well, I was
not so much for us.
So I, you know, didn't really have to use too much unless I was talking to officers.
Speaking in the other direction, right? So you traveled around. You went to Kamakura, which is right nearby.
Right.
What is this?
Double take.
Well,
It's the great Buddha statue.
Yep.
It's just it's a cultural icon of Kamakura. I mean, pretty much every Japanese person I'm sure would recognize this as being from Kamakura. Kamakura was, I know, a very important city in the 1200s, was it?
13th century.
13th, yeah. A lot of historical sites in this city. This being, I think, definitely the cornerstone of the culture there. But
This
yeah.
is a well-known site. Most all Japanese nationals would recognize this, and perhaps you've seen it. You went to some other places that are a little unfamiliar, particularly to Americans. One was in Tokyo, the Yasukuni Shrine. What is Yasukuni Shrine?
The Yasukuni Shrine is it's a war shrine created by, I think it was a Meiji Emperor in the mid to late 1800s to honor Japan's war dead fighting for the emperor, and it's kind of a source of controversy amongst Japanese people and the world community, mainly because of the fact that honored in the shrine are Japanese people from World War II who were convicted of war crimes. So it's kind of a touchy subject, I'd say, with Japanese, and I think if you want to get a gauge on how their leanings are, whether they're ultra nationalistic or whatever, you can kind of ask them about Yasukuni, what they think about Yasukuni, and that'll give you a good gauge as to where they stand. But it was definitely a very interesting site.
Right.
It's just basically a shrine, but the significance of it is it's huge, honoring people from 1860s onward. But
Aside from Yasukuni, did you explore Tokyo much?
oh yeah.
Definitely. So like on the weekend, so the way Liberty worked was, you could leave on Saturday and Sunday, and I wouldn't say we went there very often, but then we went quite a bit. We went quite a bit. We got to visit. Me being the electronics junkie and nerd that I am, wanted to visit Akihabara, which
Drag me along.
If you don't know, it's like the electronics / like really, electronic zone and video game section. I thought that was pretty cool going there, and definitely got to visit a little part of culture also. If you ever go to Shibuya, which is in that Tokyo area also, Shibuya is famous for I forgot the word was in Japanese, but it's basically where a guy and all his friends plans to meet up with one of his friends who happens to be a girl, and all of their friends, like little matchmaking date zone. So Shibuya is kind of like that hip and happening place for the young people. So and Shinjuku.
Happen to Joe all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I mean, there's it's kind of fun. I like to think of Tokyo as, you know, if you go to certain spots, it's like there's hot spots for just, you know, different kinds of, if you're looking for different things, you know.
It's a bunch of different worlds all in
Right.
the same metropolis. So.
The last couple of pictures I have before we open up for some questions is you also climbed Mount Fuji.
There's a saying in Japan, this is a fool that does not climb Mount Fuji at least once, but it's an even greater fool that climbs Mount Fuji more than once. And I never really understood that until I actually did it myself. And it's probably one of the most miserable experiences ever, but man, you climbed Mount Fuji. Like, that is awesome. It's the tallest mountain in Japan. You can see it. I mean, you can see it from where we were, and it was a good couple hours away. So, and I mean, everyone has seen pictures at some point. I can say I climbed that mountain.
What's going on with this right here?
This is the entrance to there's 10 stations, and typically people start at the 5th station, and this is where the 5th station is. There's a bus that could go all the way up to the 5th station, and this is the entrance. That's where it begins. And then you'll also notice how we all have our Fuji sticks, you know, which is, you know, very good to have.
What is that? People may not know what that is.
It's just basically a climbing stick that they sell, and a little cool thing that they have at each stop, you know, from whatever, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You could buy stamps, so they'll brand the stamp on for you. And, you know, so John and Kat, you know, they got pretty much all the stamps going up, and as for me, I was kind of, you know, lacking monetary funds at the time, so I got the beginning stamp and then the last stamp. So you see like a huge gap in between.
You can prove to everyone, yes, this red stamp means I got to
Yeah.
the top.
Yep.
There we go. So this is the peak.
We're almost there.
That's on the way.
We're still looking kind of happy. So
Yeah.
But you're above the clouds at this point.
Yes, it's starting to get colder right there.
Right, and actually what was going on at this time, people were coming back down, and they were telling us, oh, a storm's coming, a storm's coming. But, you know, us being really stubborn, we're like, you know what, we're never gonna get the chance to climb this again. We're going all the way to the top.
So glad we did too. It was one of the more memorable experiences,
Right.
I think.
It was freezing cold though up top. Freezing cold.
With that vein, before we open up the floor to some questions, can you sum up your experiences? What benefits do you see? What have you gained by spending this semester abroad?
Well, I know definitely for myself, it's definitely, you know, improved on the language, which is that was definitely, and let's see, I think, you know, as a representative not only, you know, of the Naval Academy, but, you know, I think, you know, of our military and, you know, our nation, I really think, you know, being able to make, you know, such great friends over there and, you know, leaving lasting impressions, I think that's, you know, that benefited the future relationship between Japan-U.S. Relationships. And
I mean, just gives you, I mean, you know, what Joe said, obviously, it just gives you a better perspective. I'm just having a more worldly view of things can only benefit you when you come back, you know, to Annapolis. I mean, it just gives you a better perspective, less narrow viewpoint of things.
less ignorant.
Right.
And my time there as a kid, I thought I knew everything there was to know about Japanese culture, and oh yeah, Japan, American relationships, so important. But it really didn't hit me until like the beginning picture with, we mentioned the Japanese-American militaries presenting awards to each other, telling us, you know, the friendship is so important. It didn't hit me. That is such an important relationship, and not just U.S.-Japan, but any other country that we have that are our allies. It's so important to understand their culture and understand their military, where they're coming from, because if you don't, I mean, if you don't know where someone's coming from, how are you going to relate to them? And this experience, it's not something that I can ever gain doing anything else. Not spending time with their military, not talking to a Japanese officer, but actually being there and training with them. It was the most beneficial thing.
Also, I think you know, you learn a lot about people. I mean, not speaking the language, you know, not nearly fluently enough. It's kind of maybe sometimes like daunting or difficult to communicate or to make friends. But you know, I learned that if you just engage people and you try to talk to them, you learn to communicate. You know, it may not be like as fluidly as I would say to somebody in English, but you know, you learn to relate to people, and it may not always be the best way or the most efficient way, but you know, it happens, and you build friendships and relationships through that, which is you know, priceless in my view.
Thank you very much. It's just about 1 o'clock. I think we have some time for some questions from the audience. If you have any questions for our three guests here. We also have some representatives from Japanese language and IPO, so maybe someone else could answer your question, but any questions for our speakers about their experiences?
With Bodai, with the, I guess, cadets coming into it, they're from each of the different services. Do they pick what service they want to go into beforehand, or is it like decided? How does that work?
After their freshman year, they pick their service, and then once they graduate, and when they graduate, they go to OCS. They're actually not commissioned on graduation like we are. They graduate and they become like officer candidates, and they go to officer candidate school in their service, and then that's when they get assigned to, what they want to do.
It's kind of like service selection here, except at the end of their freshman year they say, I want to be in the Air Force, but ultimately it's chosen for them. So.
What are you guys majoring in?
I'm an econ major.
I'm English.
I'm ocean engineering. Sorry.
Did you guys get an interaction with the Japanese enlisted?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we got some. I mean, just as much as we had with the officers. A lot of it is, it's kind of like here, I guess, you don't really see the officers or enlisted too much. Yes, I say the interaction was, we had it, but then it's kind of similar to here, it's not like you're always seeing them, you're always, talking with them.
Play a big background role, I'd say,
Right.
the enlisted do,
Was your perspective on being an American changed significantly with just American culture or what the rest of the world thinks of us or anything like that?
The Japanese, their national anthem mentions that they have something along the lines of undying loyalty to the emperor, and a lot of people said that created problems. Some Japanese people feel like, no, we're beyond that. We're our own nation now, and so sometimes standing at attention for the national anthem or their national ensign, it was different for us because we have, the ensign walks by or the national anthem plays. Any American, they don't have to be in the service. They snap to attention. And the Japanese always came to me and said, we're really impressed by that. Why is that? Why does that happen? And it kind of makes me proud. I know this sounds cheesy, but I was very proud to be an American. I was very proud to hear my national anthem. I'm still very proud to see the flag, and it has so much more meaning now that that I've spent time in a foreign country where it's an awesome place, awesome people, but ultimately I'm American, and that's my flag.
Could you talk about pieces of American culture that have, almost been assimilated or imitated in Japan? I saw that hip hop thing. And my family used to live in Japan, and I see all these absurd things written in English from there, and I just had no clue.
Yeah, English is definitely cool.
Yeah. They'll have random T-shirts, that says English that doesn't make any sense, like "Let's Fighting Love" or something like that. But it's written in a cool way.
Mm-hmm.
I remember asking one of my roommates, oh, hey, that's a pretty cool shirt, and it has all this English written, and he goes yeah, can you translate it for me? And it doesn't make any sense at all. But I'm like, oh, it doesn't make any sense, but hey, that's cool, why'd you buy it? He's like, yeah, well, it's got English on it, it's awesome.
You'll see McDonald's over there anywhere in the world, and what other?
How about music? Do they listen to much American music?
The hip hop dance was to Rihanna, Standing Ovation. Not exactly hip hop, but yes, a lot of American music.
Movies too. Movies are usually a little bit slower, not in actual speed. Coming over there. So if it comes out here, January, it'll take usually I don't know.
3 months behind usually, yeah. But my roommate was obsessed with Grey's Anatomy. She had as much as they had out on DVD in Japan, she had all of it, and I watched it just because I was there. But Prison Break was also huge, and 24, I think. So big American TV shows are also.
So if anything, it was probably the media, the whole pop culture. They loved it. They just ate it up. At least with the young generation, our generation.
They seem to be interested when I watch South Park too.
Yeah, they love that.
Your own interest in Japanese popular culture, were you able to indulge any certain tendencies or anime tendencies?
Manga tendencies, Joe?
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
There's one thing, it's probably kind of okay. That was probably the one thing where it's just, you know, every week our roommates would be like, yeah, let's go. We're like, all right, let's go, you know. And everyone's just having a great time.
We learned our
songs.
fair share of Japanese songs.
Yeah, we learned our fair share of Japanese songs. And by that, I mean the 3 same songs every single time.
But
how do you compare food in King Hall with what you eat there?
So much better there.
healthier.
Much healthier.
It was rice, soup, and salad 3 times a day, which can seem kind of daunting, but there was always some kind of meat with it for lunch and dinner, and there was always bread at breakfast.
Always tea.
Yeah, always tea. And the 3 of us agreed, right, well, yeah, the 3 of us agreed that their food tastes better and it's healthier. Like, it's just like there was fish with the rice or baked chicken.
Yep.
Not so much fried food.
No. And it was
Not
good.
so much excess either. It's not like
Yeah.
you're walking around, there's like 15,000 garbage bags of wasted food.
Right. It would just be like just the right portion.
Very efficient. I mean, everything there is very, very efficient, very compact, very small. You know, an island nation, so they have limited resources, and they can't really waste like we do. We can't really waste like we do, but we do anyway.
Is it very difficult to learn the proper modes of interaction with officers and teachers?
It was, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, as far as how there's some form of frozen language where there's some form of proper greeting, and if you're gonna enter a room and leave a room, that's probably one thing, just the frozen language portion, things that are set, where you're supposed to say specific things before, talking. But other than that, no, I wouldn't say not too much of a barrier.
I had a little bit of difficulty because I'm used to always sir and ma'am when speaking with an officer here, and in Japan they don't have that. If you address them properly by the by their rank, then that's it, and then you just stay respectful the whole time. And it was hard for me to, I felt like I was being disrespectful because there was no word for sir, and so I would sometimes just prefer not to talk to officers because there was always that discomfort.
I mean, your roommates help you out with that type of stuff. I mean, like the etiquette and like things that things that you have to do. I mean, your roommates will help you with that.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
In your classes, how much of this stuff did you actually understand?
100%.
100%.
No.
When my leadership professor translated stuff into English, that was cool.
One thing you got to understand also, it's a college level course over there also, so they're using college level words. I mean, and not to mention when professors write kanji, all over the board, it's not like
It's not typed kanji.
Right, it's not typed kanji. It's
like
really pretty.
Fastly.
Fastly.
Fast.
Looks
fast,
really,
quickly.
for us at least, it looks really messy. We're trying to punch it in our electronic dictionary. It's either, we don't know, we didn't write it correctly, or the word's too specific that's not in the dictionary. So
Japanese cursive.
We did a lot of work in the library because they had an English section in the library books and research online to like reinforce lessons to make sure we knew what we were learning about and learning about the right things.
Right. So a lot of times it'd be like, okay, we got a general idea of what was going on, then we go and do a lot of independent study to try and catch up.
And my leadership professor was really cool. He would have stuff on. He'd always have at least one slide in his presentation, like, oh, Mahan said this, and he'd a whole presentation about Mahan. Or when he first found out I'm from Virginia Beach, he did a whole slide on Virginia Beach and had me come up and talk about it. So, interactive class.
Were the courses you took in your major meaningful? I think at the level you were at.
Here or
there?
I didn't take any of my major classes because basically
we took core classes, leadership and strategy.
My the engineering department said to me basically like, no, we can't give you credit for this. So I knocked out all like core requirements, which
with that in mind, and we're almost at 1:10, and if we have another question or two, we can take it. Any recommendations for the practical aspect of us going abroad? You mentioned this briefly at the start, but anything now that you've thought about what you can do here to prepare practically with courses or anything like that?
This is probably the single most thing that we agree on as far as credit transfers is really, really hard to do.
Get it in writing from the professors here, because I think that was our biggest problem.
Right. Well, on top of that, you guys, y'all have to understand this is still a fairly new program. We're the third year to go, so we've done this 3 times, so there's still a lot of, you know, kinks and bugs that need to be worked out. But as far as credit transfers, if there's any tip that I could give is just take a few extra classes now if you plan on going later, because, you know, for us, like, for example, for me, you know, it's going into the 4th week of academic year, and then my schedule's still not exactly how it should be, because we have to go and talk to departments and, you know, try figuring out how are we going to get credit for this class, how are we going to get credit for this class. And like I said, it's just by the virtue of it's still a new program, you know, a lot of things are being still worked out, figured out, so.
And the department heads from last year switched this year, and last year they said, oh no, it's fine, just come and tell me, and then they're gone, and the guy's like, well, what did he have in writing, what did he want you to do? It's just get it in writing, get it set down so you have proof that someone said yes.
Right, and the future would just be like specific, be like, you know, if you want to get credit for this class, be, can I 100% get credit for this class, you know? Is there any extra work that you want me to do to ensure that I'll get credit for this class? So maybe that's
be persistent.
Be persistent, right, before you go.
But despite this wrinkle, you advocated, strongly supported going abroad.
Definitely, no regrets.
100%.
100% no regrets.
Probably the one thing you want to go in there with, if you go in there with just the clothes in your back and an open mind and a willingness to learn,
right,
and you know, you like people, you can't be closed off to the world. You want to interact with people, you know, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll have a blast for sure.
Because it's not necessarily how well you speak the language, but, you know, I like to think is how much do you want to learn? Do you want to get active, like what John said, just kind of adding on to it. Not necessarily how well you can speak the language, just are you willing to, you know, jump right in with the students, you know, just interact, you know, just do everything with them, you know, just be active, social.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. That's wonderful. Wouldn't you agree? That's great. I mean,